It came through the drywall, not screaming or firecrackers, not F words, just a rumble inside the paint, like the building itself had a skin problem. You squinted at the crack running from the ceiling vent and thought, somebody is losing. Upstairs, nobody ever did normal stuff. They carried briefcases, tablets, rolled up plans with red stamps. The stairwell always smelled like a gas station coffee pot and Xerox ink. You knew their type. They'd already won. They called it coordinated. You knew better. It was a quiet casino war. Not out on the street where they said it was, inside the house. Sometimes two of them would pass each other on the landing. Same haircut, same shoes, same navy suits. One would say just, "Morning." The other would nod, eyes flat, like he'd just buried something. You'd lie on your mattress and listen to the voices through the air vents. You'd hear the lighter click, the exhale, the long pause where they weighed their bills. One bright blue day, early, you saw one of them out at a dumpster, shirt out, tie hanging like a skinny, sweaty ribbon. He stood there with a manila envelope in his hand, just staring at it. That thing could have been a snake, the way his fingers shook. Then he tore it in half, then in half again, and shoved the pieces under banana peels and a broken umbrella. You watched from the back door, holding your coffee like it was a weapon. He looked up and saw you. "Morning," he said. "Yeah," you answered. For a second, equal. He went back inside the building. The news said everything was fine. Unprecedented, they called it. Record level. They put a flag behind the guy talking and a little ticker about the price of tea. Out here, you might get assaulted, arrested, or evicted. Up there, it gets you a new war or an empty pension fund, systemic whiplash. Night after night, you hear the engineering groan and rattle, that nasty little rhythm of people who don't trust each other walking down the same hallway, waiting for the knife in the back that's not quite literal, just hangs in the air between them like a suspected secret. Every so often, one of the elevator ghosts stopped coming. The footsteps changed. The laughing guy disappeared. The one who always hummed Sinatra off-key didn't hum anymore because he wasn't there. Nobody to ask why. The mailman kept delivering envelopes with big seals on them. They piled up until some junior suit took them away in one careful scoop. Sometimes you'd hear one of them on the phone say, "We're all on the same side." You could hear the lie in that. The worst part was the quiet days. No thuds, no raised voices, no late-night arrivals, just a panicked quiet, like the city had stopped breathing. That's when you knew something had been blasted with invisible light, and laser array you couldn't see turning the paint into ionizing plastic with a burnt toast smell, making a shadow on a wall you could see on the other side, a paralyzed chess piece in a room with no windows, a check in a box. You'd go outside for air, smoke a cheap cigarette, and watch the sky sit heavy on the roof. The building looked normal, brick and glass and security cameras. Nothing on the surface said there were men upstairs trying to decide how many strangers have to die so their side doesn't lose. The war was upstairs. They were scared, you could feel that much, of each other, of what they'd already done, that the whole rotting thing might finally fart. You didn't have clearance. You had rent and heard their voices too clearly, too close. You had an illegal habit and an empty fridge. You had to know you were hallucinating, but never quite delusional. One night, the building's quiet alarm went off for no reason. Insomnia, you thought. You lay on your mattress staring at the pee stain on the ceiling, shaped like urine lake on an endless gray landscape. That's when it hit you. They weren't going to tell you to run. Not you, or each other, not the country, not whatever flag had the better tax laws or expat incentives. They had no loyalty strong enough. It was Kilroy and silence. Upstairs, the elite war would grind on. They were talking about it, invisible outside the window, which was impossible, of course. Team here. You could hear the lie in the second word. All. Like he needed to convince himself. Like he knew damn well they were eating each other in slow motion, one memo at a time. The worst part was the quiet days. No thuds, no raised voices, no late-night arrivals, just a stillness that felt like the city had stopped breathing. That's when you knew something moved somewhere you couldn't see. A chess piece in a room with no windows. A check on a board. The rest of you never got to look at. You'd go outside for air, smoke a cheap cigarette, and watch the sky sit heavy on the roofline. The building looked normal, brick and glass and security cameras. Nothing on the surface said there were men upstairs trying to decide how many strangers have to die so their side doesn't lose. The street kids thought the real action was on their corner. The junkies thought the war was between them and their own veins. The preachers on the sidewalk thought it was sin against salvation. Cute in its way. Everybody misdiagnosing the same sickness. The war wasn't out here. It was upstairs, between the guys who sign papers that move other people's children across oceans and into body bags. They were scared. You could feel that much in the floorboards. Scared of each other. Scared of what they'd already done. Scared the whole rotten thing might finally leak. You didn't have clearance. You had rent. You had a half-broken fan and a fridge that made a sound like a dying animal when the compressor kicked on. You had enough sense to know that when powerful people get afraid of each other, it's everyone else who ends up missing. One night, the building's fire alarms went off for no reason. No smoke, no heat, just the shriek of cheap plastic screaming you awake. You stumbled into the hall with the rest of the ground floor nobodies. Upstairs, doors stayed closed. No one came down. No one even opened the stairwell. The super finally shut the alarm off with a broom handle and a curse. Everyone drifted back into their little boxes, ears ringing. You lay on your mattress staring at the water stain on the ceiling, shaped like a continent sinking beneath an endless gray sea. That's when it hit you. They weren't going to save anybody. Not you, not themselves, not the country, not whatever flag they saluted when they were young and still believed in job titles. Upstairs, the elite war would grind on. Black sedans, sealed envelopes, off-the-record briefings, friendly knives. Downstairs, you'd keep getting up for work that didn't matter, paying bills that never ended, roasting in summer, freezing in winter. One day, maybe, the dam would give. There'd be a real thud, bigger than drywall, bigger than a career, the kind of crack you feel in your teeth when the world changes. Sirens, headlines, maybe tanks on some street that wasn't supposed to see tanks. Everybody would pretend to be surprised. You wouldn't be. You were there the whole time, listening to the walls. It came through the drywall.